Okay, boomer. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we, a couple of boomers, are going to talk about Gen Z. And
boomers?
We're not even close, but that's okay. We're going to talk about Gen Z and how they're becoming boomers, or they've got boomer-like hobbies and tendencies. And this is kind of interesting. I thought it was just our kids, but apparently this is a generational thing that all these kids now are into. What they call it, Grannycore?
Yeah, Grannycore.
Which sounds dirty. It sounds like,
No, it doesn't.
Like Grannycore porn or something. But it's like, there.
What is wrong with you? No, it doesn't sound like that. That's what they call it. But I think it's cool. I think it's really cool that they want to learn how to make things again and to know how to do stuff and to make their own things and all that stuff. I know in our family, one of the things that we do, it's a tradition that we do, is we make sauerkraut, every couple years. And we make it from scratch. We make it the full on, let it ripen the whole way here. And our daughter, Joy, it's like with my parents, my sister, me, and our daughter is learning how to do it. And now my son wants to come and he wants to learn to do it. He said I probably will never use it, but he's like, I want to know how, because we're talking about how a lot of skills, like knowing how to do things, have gone the wayside. People don't know how to do basic things anymore, like canning or gardening, sewing, crochet, knitting, that kind of stuff. So I think it's fantastic that the younger people want to learn how to do this. I think that's the best. That's just awesome. It makes me very happy.
So we're going to talk about the Grannycore thing, learning how to sew and cook and
go that
crochet and knit and yarn and milk the chickens and all that stuff. And then we're going to talk. You can tell I'm like quite the farmer, right? Milking chickens.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Gen Z leading church attendance. Again, this is the opposite of what the media wants you to believe about Gen Z. It sounds like they're actually rolling the clock back a little bit. We know that they love physical media, that we know that they're pretty much responsible for the rise, I believe, in vinyl and CDs being available in most retail stores now, because they want physical media. There are so many people. It's interesting. I talked about my old man games, and a lot of the people that comment on those videos are Gen Z, and they're like, yeah, I love retro cartridges. I love arcades.
Funny. Our son was in college and he had to stop answering questions because they had different trivia nights, and one was 80s music, and he was answering every question and getting it right. And so they just basically, he just stopped answering because no one else had a chance. Because he knows it all, because he grew up on it.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of these, I guess a lot of Gen Zs now, their parents are Gen X. For not always, but a lot of them are Gen X. Some of them are millennial, but a lot of them are Gen X. And they're just they just grew up with the older millennials, the later Gen X, and they know the stuff we love. And I think they just missed connection, and they miss, I don't know how to explain it, but they just miss what it was. There's a time that, I think when millennials were growing up and into their time, where everything was very computer, impersonal, order online, and that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that Gen Z, is wanting to go to all that, but they seem like a lot of them do.
I think they're, a lot of it, I think, too, is, TV and streaming. And, we've talked about this before, like Stranger Things.
You can watch the old shows. And they were more popular. Friends was more popular than what was on TV just a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's very, very weird. But they're also watching it. They're really curious. They're like, wait, there was a time when everybody wasn't tethered constantly to a cell phone, to the internet. There was a time when you could actually be by yourself. There was a time when you didn't know how to call somebody because you didn't have any quarters. Wait, what?
What do you do? That's when the collect call came from. I'm here. Can you come get me, Mom?
Yeah.
Will you accept the collect call from? I'm here. Will you come get me, Mom? No.
I know. It's please the collect call from movie's over. I'm broke.
Yeah.
Come pick me up. And
no, it won't accept the charges.
They want malls to come back. So, I mean, look, I'm loving this.
Actually, so.
I think it's great, but it is very weird because, again, we hear all these stories of super woke Gen Z, super progressive, whatever, and then
but that's also true though, because just the other day, I was seeing a chart and they were saying about how this huge amount of people now identify as, LGBTQIA plus whatever. And if you look at it, almost all of it is Gen Z and some millennial. The millennial went up some, but almost all of it was Gen Z. So you have it's a tale of two cities when it comes to Gen Z. It seems like it's either one side. They very are. I don't want to say polarized because they get along. I just think it's just there's a definite division there. Which way you're going to go. So
I mean, look, there have always been, divisions, even like everybody's like, oh, Gen X was like this. It's like, no, actually Gen X, we had our little groups of, we had the jocks.
Have you seen The Breakfast Club?
Have you seen The Breakfast Club? Yeah, that was actually very, very accurate.
I mean, my school wasn't that bad, but, because my class actually most everybody got along, but yeah.
Yeah, then we had the, I can't say on YouTube what we used to call them, but like all the art kids and the band kids and the goth kids. They listened to The Cure.
Oh my God. Not in my school. Not in my school. The ones who listened to The Cure were the popular kids. At every damn school dance, we had to listen to The Cure because they wanted to listen to it.
Okay, see, that was not the case in my school. My school, it was like it was like hip hop was like the most popular thing.
Anyway, we had that too, but yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about Gen Z turning into boomers. Before you get into any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
Go out to Kickstarter. Wow, almost 13,000. Geeky has her glowing ghouls retro enamel pins. I'm sure Gen Z would love these because they're retro.
And there is a Geeky pin.
There is a Geeky pin.
He's going to take you down there. If you scroll down. And on the side, they'll have an option just to buy it by itself.
Yeah, you can buy it by itself. Yep, or you can do it as an add-on.
There,
which 13 people have done already. So there you go.
So the Geeky pin exists. I have no legs, but that's okay.
That's okay. You're an apparition. You're like the library ghost from Ghostbusters.
I used to work in a library, so there you go.
Yeah, and if you make her angry when you touch her books, she screams at you.
Yeah, that's what it is. It was shrieks. Once upon a time in the card catalogs, the kids don't even know how to use card catalogs. But you don't need to now. Let's be honest. It's a hell of a lot easier to go on the internet. But card catalogs were a thing.
It's almost like as we push more into this, and I think we're going to divide too. I think we're going to have like the old heads, and then we're going to have the high tech class or whatever. But it seems like the more that we push into like AI and technology automating everything, the more humans tend to push back and be like, no, I want the old stuff. I want the
They want the human
stuff.
Connection. They want the working with your hands. They want the tactile experience. They don't want just everything, being fake or online or, made in China kind of situation. And I love that. I think that's exciting. And I think that's something that we should be praising is the fact that, because, there's a lot of people don't know how to do basic things. And honestly, you haven't had to. But it's good to know.
It is good to know. So let's talk about this. This comes from Vice. This was today. Gen Z is swapping doom scrolling for grandma hobbies.
Good. Grannycore. Hell yeah.
Grannycore, yeah. They said they're skipping the club and heading elsewhere. They're gathering around tables filled with yarn, beads, and the occasionally badly drawn dog. So they're calling it what it feels like. Crafts are like medicine. Gabby, founder of Girls Craft Club in Edinburgh, told The Guardian after an ADHD diagnosis left her feeling unmoored, she started hosting weekly creative meetups. Every session has a theme: crochet, jewelry making, latte art.
I love this.
And the draw is far more than the crafts. It's the chance to be present, off-screen, and human for a few hours.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you right now, it is not just Gen Z that's wanting this, because I come from a very crafty family. And my sister was saying about how the people she knows, and they were saying how much they wish, and my mom was mentioning about people at church saying this too, that they wish that there was like groups that you could join. Because there's a lot of people, that might be alone for some reason. Maybe they lost their spouse, or, maybe they live far away from their family or something. And they want the opportunity to just be with other crafters. They do like reading clubs and stuff. You just sit with other people. And you just, even if it's quiet, just because you're there with others and you're part of the experience. I think it's why like K-pop Demon Hunters did so well at the theater, because it was the experience of all, being together and watching it together. And I think that the idea of having a craft thing and each night do something different so you can learn something new and you could laugh and meet people and make friends is a fantastic idea, because people, with the internet being the way it is and the way society is and after COVID, people aren't connected, and there's a lot of mental health issues. And I think a lot of it is, directly linked to, the climate and, the fear and the fact that people don't connect and communicate anymore, not in person, and they need to.
Well, that's what they're talking about. They said, now this is in the UK. They said 25% of 15-year-olds have low life satisfaction. I'm like, well, given the way things are going right now in the UK, there might be more going on. But
yeah, but I think a lot of people have low life satisfaction
right now. But they said, yeah, and this is true, because this is what's happening there's a whole generation of kids that have been interrupted. They said many of today's 20-somethings hit their formative years during the lockdown. Their social lives were interrupted. Their sense of stability never really landed. And I mean, that's a huge one. I know a lot of kids didn't have prom. They didn't have graduation.
I'm going to argue that it's been going on long before COVID. I mean, that was like the peak of it. I think that was like a, worst case scenario. But it was going on long before that, with the internet and everything being online, and our son going to college, and they wouldn't talk to you, but here's follow me on Instagram or TikTok, and here's
that was freaking weird.
Yeah,
that was weird.
It has been going on for a long time. Kids have had trouble connecting at school. Like, a lot of times they find more friends online than they do in person. That has been a problem for a long time prior to COVID. COVID lockdowns just exacerbated an already existing issue. And I'm sorry, the lockdowns weren't that long. So I don't think that was, for little kids like kindergartners who, or little kids that, or like maybe first and second graders and things, that might have been a little more detrimental, I think, than for older kids. But I'm just like, I don't think it's all hinging on the pandemic. I think that's a convenient place to point to, but I think it made it worse, but I think the problems existed long before that.
Well, I think that maybe like you said, that this was where it came to a head, where it was like, okay, now we've reached, so everybody wanted to hole up in their rooms and hole up in their houses and live online. And then we were forced to do that for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And people are rebelling now. They're like, yeah, fuck this. This is some bullshit.
Yeah,
Let's get out of the house and do something.
For a lot of people, people were killing themselves over being locked up because they need that human connection.
Yeah.
And I think it just made it very obvious to people. Life is short, and maybe we need that connection. Maybe this stuff, instead of they said doom scrolling, maybe it's better to put music or a podcast or something on the radio in the background, or your TV or whatever in the background, and then work on something that that you can focus on, that you enjoy, that gives you a sense of accomplishment, that you feel like you're learning from, and you can share with other people. To me, this is like what it was always like. For us, I guess it's harder to understand because this is what it was anyway, but I can understand. I guess I can understand why it's not that way for the last how many years. So it's novel to people. I get it. It's just was old hat to us, but I can see why it's novel, and I'm really happy to see people turning back to it.
Yeah, I wonder if this is kind of going into with games too, with the physical cartridges, and people want to be present in person with a player to be able to play games on the couch like we used to. I wonder if this is factoring into what's going on with tabletop games. The tabletop games kind of blew up. Now, granted, people were locked in their houses too, but I think a lot of people were getting together in small groups to play games because they could play them in person.
Or you could play them on Zoom and stuff even. You could play them with people.
Yeah.
You have to use the internet connection, but you still were connecting with people. And I think it's cool. I think it makes me happy.
It's interesting because I thought, maybe just our daughter was an old head because she likes this kind of stuff.
She loves it.
But it feels like, it was a generational thing. They said the hobbies offer a reset, not in a self-help way, but in a let's paint ceramics and talk shit for 2 hours kind of a way.
Yes, it's fun.
Dog life drawing classes attract 40 people per session. Supper clubs.
Okay, it's a dog life drawing class. Hell yeah.
We got 3.
I mean, okay, I did a dog life drawing class even 10 years ago,
It's like, draw me like your French poodles.
Like your French poodle. Okay.
Supper clubs in Belfast sell out. Book readings in Manchester feel like concerts. You don't need to be good at any of it. The act of doing something with your hands and doing it near other people is nothing. And I'm wondering, because everybody's worried about everything going digital and everything going online, and we're starting to see the pushback kind of against that.
Good. I think people need to push back.
I think even if we live in an AI-infused fever dream, I think that people are still going to crave that connection and having those physical things and those handmade things. So there's always going to be a demand for that. Might be that maybe on the commercial level, more and more stuff is automated, but people are going to want, that real.
Well, that gives a return to like going to craft shows and things and buying from people who actually made stuff,
Yeah.
And I love that. And but it was really interesting. It was so funny. We're talking about this today because yesterday I was walking with Squid King, and I take walks with my kids sometimes and stuff. And we were walking. We were talking about conventions, and we were talking about how weird people have gotten at conventions. So like. We were talking about people making things. We were talking about the AI stuff and the situation with the walls of IP, prints, and now that's okay, but don't use AI.
Make up your mind.
My argument is it's the same thing, but that's a whole other story. We were talking about that, and he said it's been so weird lately because at Artist Alley, it used to be. Now he grew up going to conventions. Our kids grew up going to conventions. They're very familiar. Dealers' rooms, artist alleys, all of that. They grew up there. And he was talking about how weird it is now because he said, people used to talk and they used to be fun, but now you got all these people making stuff, but they're socially awkward and stunted, likely because of, last few years, pandemic and leading up to it. And they want you to buy their stuff, but they either won't wait on you, won't talk to you, or they're like afraid of you. And if you try to engage them, they act like you did something, you kicked their dog, and they're like, why are you talking to me? Even though you're trying to buy their stuff, and how off-putting it is. As someone trying to buy things or wanting to learn about their stuff or talk to them about their art, and you're like, oh, this is really cool. How'd you make this? Or did you make this? Or what, tell me about it. And they're just looking at me like, why are you talking to me?
I know,
and
right?
He's just like, well, if I'm paying you $50 for this, I would at least want, a hello, thank you, how are you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he brought this up yesterday, unprompted, and he's like about how weird. So you got this return to making things, but you also, I think the social aspect is so important because people need to learn how to interact with people again. Because I don't think they know how. And I think once you're shut in, it's easy to stay there, even mentally. And I think a lot of people are staying there and they need to step out again. So I think this kind of stuff where you're getting with other people and you're learning to communicate and you're learning to laugh and you're learning to talk to others is so helpful. It's not just the craft and how great that is. It's the fact that you get to learn how to be a person again. And some people never learn because they grew up with computers the whole time.
Yeah, and you can see it, and I think that, again, and the pandemic brought the worst out in people that had antisocial tendencies. Like they were able to hole up in their houses, they were able to work at home. They were, and those people.
That sounds like a dream come true to me. I mean, I'm a person who can pretend to be very extroverted for a short time, but I'm actually very introverted.
Yeah, I tolerate people.
No, but you're way more extroverted than me.
I am.
He'll go to some place and he'll be like in line for 5 minutes, come back, and everybody around him's full life story. It's funny.
That is true. I do. I just ask questions.
He's like the chatty neighbor. But like me, I can pretend. I do a really good job of being able to go through the motions, and I'm genuinely interested. I'm genuinely happy to see people, but I only could do it so long, and then I just get overwhelmed, and then my introvert kicks in, and then I hide behind Kneon. And people are going to be very surprised because, no, Geeky's very extroverted. Nope.
Yeah, that's actually true. Like she plays a good extrovert on the channel.
I'm great at masking, but
But I'm usually I'm usually the icebreaker. Like if we're gonna go talk to somebody or meet the new neighbor or business calls, or I'm 99.9% of the time it's me because I just don't give a shit. I'm just like, whatever. I don't care. The worst thing they can do is like laugh at me or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, I used to get beat up when I was a kid. I don't really care. Anyway, my takeaway would be very different. My takeaway would be like, if kids were beat up more often, they would get out. Get out of the house, more nerd. No, but this is just it's actually really interesting to see all of this, and all these stories are dropping about the same time. This was a day or two ago. Christianity Today they said Gen Z is leading in church attendance now too. Like, what is going on? Then we have this whole thing we talked about before with the trad wife trend, and it just seems like part not the entire generation, but parts of this generation, they're trying to reconnect with their humanity again, right? And everything that goes with it. But they said that, yeah, people born between 1997 and 2007, they go to church more than Gen X, more than boomers, which is crazy. They said millennials don't go. No, they said millennials attend like 22 services annually, up. So that's up too. It says it's historic and it's a generational reversal.
I think generational reversal across the board is a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it almost feels like the Uno reverse card got played, and I think that also. I think that also plays into, you know, we've talked about the election map, and you know the fact that the media seems really disconnected from where people are right now, and they've got this mindset that, you know, everybody in the country is, you know, from like Portland or LA or New York or whatever, and that's not really what's going on here. The fact that we've got, you know, younger people trying to go back to basics, back to tradition, yeah, it's really interesting, because that normally doesn't happen. Usually it's you know, the next generation is more progressive and more liberal than the last generation, and it just keeps escalating. So for all this talk of like all these, you know, blue and pink haired screeching Gen Z, you know, lazy,
which
whatever,
do exist.
They do exist, but these people exist too, and I'm actually seeing more of these. I'm seeing more
around here. Yes, definitely. You see
Oh, yeah.
way more people like this than you see the other way. Like, we were at the antique store yesterday, and we go there looking for 80s toys and stuff. And when we were in there, there was a lot of older people, a lot of boomers in there. And then there was also younger people that were in there, and they were like excited about stuff. One guy was taking pictures about all the projects he can make. You know, looking at things and getting, he heard him tell his girlfriend, "I've got so many ideas for projects now."
Yeah, they were younger.
They were really excited. I mean, they were like early 20s probably. And they were
early mid-20s.
Yeah, they were early 20s. They were really excited. And I was like, well, you know, it was unusual to see them there, but you know, they were there and they were happy to be there, and it was not something you expect Gen Z to be doing. But I know our son and his friends love to go to that exact same antique store. They go all the time, and they're all younger.
Yeah. And we're seeing more and more of that. And actually seeing them youngins, those kids get genuinely excited by older stuff. And it's not like, I can't explain it. Like with millennials, with the hipsters, it was a superficial fake, like, fake. I'm going to pretend like I'm into this thing to make it look like I'm smarter than I actually am, or that I have, you know, taste, even though I really don't give a shit about it. And it's all about putting on a show. Like I talked before about Geeky going to a Goodwill, and this hipster pulled out all the vinyl and laid it around him. And I knew he was going to do that.
It was very performative.
He made a big show of it. Meanwhile, my kids, like for the longest time, they're like, "Oh yeah, my favorite band's Fleetwood Mac." I'm like, "Wait, what? That was your grandmother's favorite group. What?
Listen to their songs. And this is my jam." I'm like, this was on when I was in high school. You know, it's like
my mom listened to Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah,
she's gone to it too. But it was so weird because they, on their own, they discovered 70s, 80s music on their own. Like my daughter's buying CDs of bands, and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had saved all my CDs, because I had like 1,000 CDs, because I used to be a DJ. So I had a massive collection of CDs, and I sold them all because I didn't want to store them. And now I'm like, oh, I'm never going to need these, because, you know, everything's digital now. And now our kids are like, oh yeah, I love CDs.
Well, it also happened that when originally when things were digital, you were owning them, and now it's like, oh no, you never actually owned those.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of regret, a lot of regret actually on my part for getting rid of a lot of my physical media, because I'm like,
you have to look at it too. Like, sometimes it's cheaper to go to a garage sale and buy like a CD for $2 than it is to keep paying for subscriptions to be able to get the music. Sometimes, you know, when it comes to video games, they're going to the retro consoles because you don't have to worry about Nintendo just shutting your system down if they don't like something you do. They're going to the retro consoles because those games were good, and they don't have to worry about spending $90 for a game that might be You know, they know these games are fun and good, and they go back and play them because some of them are just perennial favorites, and you own it, and they're not going to be able to take it away from you. So I think a lot of it has to do with, you've got a generation that's learning that you don't own anything unless you own something.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think there's a lack of trust. I mean,
Understandable.
Again, if you're playing a modern video game, chances are it's a subscription. It's not an actual product that you buy.
And the you can pay to have all this extra stuff. Used to be you buy the game, it was all there.
Yeah.
You have to pay extra if you wanted to do this, that, or the other. It was ridiculous.
No, and I mean they would patch it occasionally. I mean when we got into online games, Xbox and PS2 and stuff, occasionally they would patch games. Didn't PCs would do it. It didn't happen that often, so you pretty much had to make sure whatever was in the box was what was
right.
You committed to it, and if it sucked, then you got called out in review. Like, yeah, the game crashes. It has bugs.
Well, you have this big, huge trend now. People like coding their own games for these old systems and stuff. Young people doing that and stuff now.
Oh my God, Spirit Halloween. Spirit Halloween's got an
I know. I
NES
wanted to get it for you,
year.
but they didn't have it. I looked because it just opened, and I went in and looked, and they didn't have it there. I think it was online, and I was like, "Dang it, they don't have the NES game." I was trying to find it for you.
Well, I keep going on and on about the Atari because I just think it's cool they're still making Atari with cartridges. And
I was going to tell you yesterday. Did you see the Atari and there's the one section of the antique store we always stop at where you found those GI Joes that time? They had an Atari there.
I didn't see it.
It was on the floor. Yeah.
Oh,
so one time we were at the same antique store. Kneon found, which they mentioned them before, but we were back there, and the person must have thought they were the reissues of the GI Joe figures, but they weren't. They were on card, and they were the original 1980s GI Joe figures.
So we got, I got Duke and Dusty, and they're actually two of my favorite characters. Weirdly enough, you bought me a loose Dusty,
right? Not long before that.
Not long before that, because I love Dusty. He was like always my favorite Joe. I don't know why. I think it's because he had the cloth. Like I don't know. He just looked cool. But I got Duke and Dusty carded 84 and 85, and actually the Duke has the mail away certificate in it. Great shape, probably a C8, C9 card. And I think we paid $30 each for him, and just the Duke is worth.
And then you got a deal because it was like 20% off.
Oh yeah, it was 20% off too, and I was like trying real hard. It was kind of like Toy Story with Al, where he found Woody's hat and he's trying to be all like cool about it, and it was kind of like me, like, oh, yeah, I guess I'll take these old GI Joes. Wow, isn't it funny that the GI Joe they're still making the GI Joes? Isn't that cool?
I think they thought it was reissues, but anyway.
Well, yeah. Anyway,
so
they're worth a couple $1,000.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. But it's just I had to point to all this. Oh, I was mentioning Atari. That's why I was.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why I decided to do it in the video, but yes, there was an Atari there, and I just think it's cool because you see these people and they're Gen Z, and they're like wanting to hang out at these places. They're going to craft shows either to sell or to buy, and wanting to get together and have these craft nights, book reading nights where you just sit there and everybody's quiet but you read together. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. I love everything about it.
Yeah,
guys?
I think this is cool. I would like to see this trend continue, and I think again, as we, I don't know, devolve or evolve, depends on how you look at it, into more of a tech-oriented society. I think you're going to have people that just kind of push back, or they need to, like, we need to have that human connection. We can't just rely on computers for everything.
No, especially now, and I think that's why people are so mad about AI. And it's like, well, great. I'd love to see more human connection, less AI. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. So this is awesome. So there you go, guys. All right. We going to wrap this up?
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Again, check out Geeky's pins out on Kickstarter, Geeky Sparkles, Glow and Ghouls. Oh, yay. Hey, we hit 13,000.
Yay. Thank you.
So there we go, guys. So thank you very much for that, and we'll talk later.
Bye.
For more pop culture news, views, and rants, go to news.clownfishtv.com. That's news.clownfishtv.com.